I said that. Okay, we'll now continue with our agenda. And Dr. Ed Berger is getting on an airplane, so I'm going to ask Dr. Sauer to please give the Academic Affairs and Quality Committee report and then move right into his presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. The AAAQ committee continues to meet on a monthly basis, and so we met twice before this commission meeting. The three programs that were reviewed by the committee on those two occasions are on the agenda for expedited action today. Would you like me to?
Yes, please. Julian here?
Oh, yes, Julian is right here, and she's going to step up in a moment as soon as I provide a little bit of an introduction to this demo.
Thank you.
So with that, we would like to provide an update on the Indiana College Core course planning tool and demo that tool.
So they can hear.
Is that fair?
That's good. Thank you, sir.
So let me provide a little bit of a context. Just a quick reminder of what is the Indiana College Core. It is a 30 credit hour core courses that are in general education. So these are liberal arts courses. They transfer as a block. If someone completes the core, they transfer. And we do have some private institutions who accept the core as well. The core is based on competencies. There are 6 areas. Since the core was first made available back in 2014, there have been over 10,000 high school students who have completed that core, some 2,300 in FY22 alone. So it is an important mechanism for students to get a head start on their college careers. We have branded the tool that you are about to see demonstrated, My College Core. So it's about the Indiana College Core, but the tool itself, the student interface, will be My College Core. So what's the status? Obviously, the tool has been developed, and we're ready to demonstrate that to you. It was demonstrated through a contract that we had with OneBridge, a company, software company that has been a terrific partner. You may recall they were the same company that we used to develop the School Finder tool, and they really have been wonderful to work with. We're about ready to have a soft launch of the tool, which is to say, while it's had a lot of review by a lot of different parties, we still want to be a little easy with the way we put it in place in all 140 high schools that now offer the Indiana College Core in partnership with post-secondary institutions. So we'll have that soft launch starting pretty soon, maybe in a week or two, not quite sure exactly. The focus initially was on high schools that had Ivy Tech as its primary and post-secondary partner. And the reason for doing that is Ivy Tech was in a better position to provide the data that you need to have in order to power the tool. But the intent clearly is to, over the coming months, to have all post-secondary institutions that are partnering with high schools, and that's most of our institutions now, have the tool available to them too, and their courses would be included in this tool. We already have some phase 2 work that is planned as a result of the demos that we've done to date, and that work should begin very shortly. This would be a tool, this is a commission tool, so I make that clear, and it would be something that we need to build into our budget to make sure that we can maintain it over time. But this is a tool that would be available at, when fully rolled out at every single high school at which the Indiana College Board is available. Each high school that has been designated as a delivery site of the board. And actually, we probably won't even stop there. We'll probably make this more widely available when it's fully implemented, so that high schools that are not offering the core will get a chance to see how the core will work and what courses they may need to offer in order to be designated as a delivery site. So what are the building blocks of this tool? This is my reference to, in part, to data. Of course, it is the dual credit courses that are taught by high school faculty in partnership with the post-secondary institution at that high school. It also includes the advanced placement classes, because if students score high enough on an AP exam, then they can get credit for a course which will apply to meeting the requirements of the Indiana College Board. Likewise, the CLEP exams, the college level examination program, is also run by out of the College Board, just like the advanced placement exams. If the students scored high enough on one of those CLEP exams, they too would be able to get credit for a course that would count toward the core. So it's not just the dual credit courses, not just AP CLEP, and which is what we call dual enrollment courses. So in other words, there are some send some of the students to a nearby campus to get that course because they don't have a dual credit faculty member who's fully qualified to teach a course for dual credit, and maybe they're at that high school. So another approach would be to go to a nearby campus. I think there are two questions. I think Nancy was first.
I won.
Just a quick one, and I may be getting ahead of the demo, but is there an opportunity to link this into Dr. Jenner's GPS platform?
I wouldn't say there's a direct tie, but one of the groups that we have demoed this tool with was the Department of Education. And we have explicitly talked about the long-range vision when, by which we would have these tools ideally connected. Certainly, at least there would be awareness of them and that they could be linked coming from either direction, post-secondary or the secondary. But we have talked about the ideal, which would be to actually have the high school class planning tool linked to this tool as well. Now we've got to fully develop each tool and then figure out how best to link them, but we have had that conversation, yes.
Ken, who approves the courses that fall into the foundational intellectual skills? Is there somebody approve those courses that meet the requirements for this? And is there even a list of what those courses are?
Right. The short answer is our transfer infrastructure, the STAC, Statewide Transfer and Articulation Committee, works on the equivalencies of all of the courses that are in the core transfer library, for example. So that's something that we maintain on our transferring website. If you're thinking about courses that would fit into a 2+2, those the associate baccalaureate, those are a little bit different, but for each one of the so-called TSAPs, transfer single articulation pathways, 2+2s, the competencies for all of the courses that are supposed to be in that associate degree were jointly agreed to by the 2-year and 4-year institutions. And then the 2-year institutions, once they know the competencies that their associate degree graduates have to have mastered in order to be able to move on to the related baccalaureate degree and transfer those credits, they go back and identify those courses.
But Ken, maybe to clarify Chris's question, you can send to the commission members a list of what I would say are course numbers and names that qualify for the Indiana College Core. That list could be, and is accessible, and we can send that to you all to see exactly what those are eligible to count within each section. I'm not sure if that's partly embedded in your question.
Yeah, it was just my trying to understand, who are the approving bodies behind all of these courses that go in here? Who sets the rigor of the course? And does the commission ultimately approve those, or is it just done by other bodies? Or, I mean, I don't want to take up any more time, other than if that was something that you could show kind of the flow of that and send out to us and a list of those what would have been approved. It'd be helpful for me to understand what is being approved in each one of these 6 areas, and who's setting the rigor. How does it structure? How does it work? I just am confused. We could do a sidebar.
Okay, sure. Be happy to. And by the way, those are the 6 competency areas in that little circle. So, intentional course taking, that's what this tool is really all about. I don't know if you had a chance to read the blog that was included in the agenda, but it's all about moving from random to intentional acts of dual credit. That the student, we would want the dual credit students who seek to complete the core to think beyond the core. Where do they want to go in terms of getting an associate and or baccalaureate degree? Some will just go to an associate degree and stop there. Others will go directly into a baccalaureate degree. Still others will take advantage of the 2+2s that we've built, where the associate degree credits transfer fully and apply toward the baccalaureate degree. So this tool invites the students to think beyond the core and say, well, what is the degree that you want to pursue? And that's important because in order to make sure those credits seamlessly apply, they will transfer to all institutions. That is absolutely true. But you need to take the right math or science, for example. There are some other disciplines too, depending on your major, that you need to be careful of in terms of what course you take. But we like students, when they think about completing the core, think beyond what is your associate bachelor's degree and what are the math or science courses that will best seamlessly lead to that pathway. So that's an important point, and that's what this tool is all about. We do have a unique partnership with the College Board. I had mentioned that AP classes are a part of our building block of this tool. The College Board has something they call a course ledger, which is a database that has every single AP class that is taught at every single high school across the country. And we didn't want to assume that a particular AP class would be available at a high school, because it may not be. So we were able to get around that problem of, well, what's available where, by working directly with the College Board. And this is a unique partnership. No state has worked with the College Board to access that database of AP classes, and we have incorporated that into the database that powers My College Core, the course planning tool. So that's a very unique feature. In addition to this partnership that we've had with the College Board, we also have a partnership with Modern States. And Modern States is a private nonprofit that has developed free, open resources that will help students prepare for successfully taking a CLEP exam. And these resources are simply out there, anybody can use them, and we will have links in the tool that will take students to those resources to help them do better when they take that CLEP exam, or in fact, really, if it's related to an AP exam, I can probably look at that too as well. This is something you may recall that President Daniels was very much a champion of. He was touting the benefits of Modern States and the resources they have available, and the fact that students would be able to take and thereby save time in earning a particular degree. Now, this tool is wonderful, and it helps the students think about what courses they need to take. They can also share these plans, by the way, with their parents and counselors, or anybody who may be a significant other, in helping them to think through what happens after high school. So it is just a terrific tool. Students will have so much more awareness of what it takes to complete the core and what their options are as they explore different pathways. But it's not a tool by which students can actually enroll in a class. They need to work with their counselor. And anyway, that's something we would advise. That human touch is so important. And so we really are trying to emphasize, when you use the tool, you'll be well informed, but make sure you talk to your counselor, because you're going to get important advice from them, and it will just be a way in which they can take a look at the plans that you put together and hopefully affirm them, or else suggest some adjustments if that's needed. So the tool, the technology, the data is great. Yeah, better informed students, but work with your counselor. That's a message that we really want to get across. And then finally, this last slide emphasizes the fact that the Indiana College Core, this tool, build on years of previous work. So the Core Transfer Library, most of the two-year institutions use courses from the Core Transfer Library to that goes back, the roots of that go back almost 3 decades. And we maintain that database on our transfer-in website. The Indiana College Core itself, that's over a decade old now. The single articulation pathways, 2+2s, TSAPs, as we refer to them, those are a decade old this year. The transfer-in website goes back more than 2 decades. So, and credential engine work, which also provides a technological link that I won't get into at this moment, but that work goes back 6 years. In fact, the idea of a tool like this first was hatched about 2 years ago. So it's taken a while to get there. So this is something that doesn't happen with the snap of a finger, and it depends on a lot of previous foundational work. But because of that foundation, we're now in a position to take advantage of that and put this together in the form of my college course. So before I turn things over to Jillian, and I hope I whetted your appetite, you're very anxious to see this tool. A number of thank yous are in order. People on my team, Jessica Barrett and Terry Lambert, have contributed to this, as well as others on commission staff. Ivy Tech has been a great partner here. We started with them for the reasons I told, and a number of people there made real contributions to this tool. We've demonstrated this. I had a chance to look at this and respond to it. As I mentioned, we also demoed this with the Department of Education and CEL at UIndy. So we have a lot of opportunities for feedback. Undoubtedly, as this is used in the field, we'll get even more feedback. We actually demoed this at the AAQ committee meeting as well. So we've had a lot of input, and thank you to all of that. I'm saving the biggest thank you for last, which is to Jillian. And Jillian has just demonstrated some superb leadership in developing this tool. I just want you to know she has done a more effective job on this. So,
Ken, I apologize for extending your time up here. I just have one question. We have talked over the last several years about the challenge of engaging kids to think about higher education or workforce development or that kind of thing. And we've been doing the same thing the same way with some tool enhancements. And I keep thinking that, when I look at what my college core tool is doing, it just seems to me that if we were able to engage students a bit earlier, like maybe their sophomore year or something, with an aptitude test that says, instead of this, we can narrow to here of where it looks like you've got aptitudes. That's my fault. We've got aptitudes. And then it ties into this saying, if you have interest in these areas, here are some courses that would be a nice foundation. Get them started thinking earlier rather than the junior or senior year. We might be able to bend the curve on more people thinking about higher education because, and this is not I had no idea what I wanted to do or what my career would be or anything like that when I was in high school and college, and I'm still wondering what I want to do when I grow up. But the point is that it just seems like more of the system is tied to getting kids to start thinking about things, maybe in their junior year and definitely their senior year. And I'm wondering if we need to capture them a bit sooner, and with a tool like aptitude, there might be something better than that that's tied into something like this that says, these are your top 3 things you might have interest in. Here's where you might want to direct your attention to courses or things like that will pay off. And I just feel like we're not capturing kids early enough. I know Katie Jenner is looking at doing some things, but I'm wondering if there's a way to partner more with what Katie's trying to do and what higher ed is trying to do in drawing these kids toward higher education or workforce development.
Well, 2 quick responses. First, let me pick up on your reference to aptitude and trying to get kids to think about careers and what educational pathway they have to take in order to fulfill those careers. I mentioned School Finder tool and a link to that. Another tool that we have links to is the Career Explorer tool. And this is a much more sophisticated tool, just a bigger tool. It encompasses more. This was something that, as the name suggests, it's designed to help young people. Well, really, it's designed to help people of any age, but especially young people, to explore different careers, to not only capture their interest, but to get at least some feel for aptitudes that they might have for different areas, and then how that would relate to an educational program. That has been, I think, a great example of interagency work. The Career Explorer is actually licensed through the Department of Workforce Development, but the Department of Education and the Commission for Higher Education were a part of that whole process. And, even beginning with being involved with the RFP and reviewing proposals, but we wanted to make sure, we said, let's continue this interagency work, not just in finding a vendor, but in working with that vendor going forward so that continual improvements and refinements can be made. So I think the Career Explorer helps, I think, with what you were after, Chris. Now, the other thing is, with respect to specific courses, yes, I do believe that we need to do more and better work with respect to laying out what courses might best fit for a general pathway. And I think as a result of having this tool in place, as a result of having the Indiana College Core more widely available at high schools, I think there will be a real demand for saying, well, this is good, but how can we even push this further? So I'm all with you on that point.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm especially glad you said it quick.
And as Jillian comes forward for the demonstration, Chris, I would add to, and Josh is probably chomping at the bit to say something about it too, but in both the House and Senate, there are members of the Assembly right now who are keenly interested in the kind of recommendations you were just making, and driving down what I think can sort of summarize as college and career coaching or advising to a much younger age. One really good set of recommendations came before the Governor's Workforce Cabinet a few years ago. I think kind of been on the shelf because of the pandemic. That literally phased from, I believe, K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12 in various stages to help students be thinking about including the adults in their life much sooner than junior and senior. Talk offline too. I think some folks in the General Assembly who are really championing, along with Secretary General and others of us, to push that down more and more and more.
All yours, Jillian.
Thank you, Ken. And I did want to start off by sharing just a real quick story on how this tool came about. It was about 2 years ago, and my colleague, Jessica Barrett, she was working with her son, who was a freshman or sophomore, and the next day he had to actually go and meet with the counselor to schedule his classes, and she wanted him to pursue and earn the Indiana College Core. I don't know if that was him waiting till the last minute or that was the turnaround time for the high school, but she looked on their website. She wasn't able to find a lot of resources that were helpful to her in seeing which classes they needed to pursue for the core. So we realized that we had all of this great information at our fingertips. So why not build this tool that can be a one-stop shop for parents, students, counselors to be able to go to and not have to go to multiple websites and different resources. It's all about their high school in one tool. So that's what we're going to show you here today. So we have it on the screen, as Ken mentioned. It's called My College Core, mycollegecore.org. We have made it consistent with the branding of Learn More Indiana, so you're probably familiar with those colors, but we wanted to make it more fun and engaging for students and parents. We want it to be a tool that they're willing to come back to, and as they take courses, they can mark completed, they can share these plans, which we'll show you in just a moment, but we really wanted it to be more of a fun feel for these students. So I'm gonna go through it kind of with the persona that I'm a new student, I'm a new freshman student, trying to get them engaged early, and my guidance counselor just told me about this site, and I don't know a lot about the college course, so we're gonna go through it from that persona. So on the very front page, you'll be able to read about the site. I can read about the site, I can see what the college core is, just a very quick overview of that. And then down here, it's going to tell me reasons why I should pursue the Indiana College Core and what it's going to help me with later down the road. So getting ahead, exploring more opportunities, saving time and money. That sounds really great. So there's some additional resources at the bottom, but if I go to this About page, what is it? If I'm not very familiar with the Indiana College Core, this is going to give me an overview of what it is, tell me that it's a certificate when I'm in high school. And that's also made up of dual credit, AP, CLEP, and college campus or online courses. I'm not quite ready to get started yet, so I'm going to explore a little bit more on this page. And this section explains the competency piece. You already saw this graphic in Ken's presentation, but it talks more about earning the competencies, why they're important in more of a visually appealing way. And then down here, there's a video that's on Learn More Indiana, so students can watch this video if that's more up their alley, and they can actually just learn about the core through that video. And then down here, get started. Again, I'm not quite ready to get started with the tool yet, but it keeps reminding me that, so it's very persistent. If I go up to About and why should I earn it? Again, it really emphasizes the reasons of getting ahead. It lists out explore more opportunities, reasons why I'm going to be saving time and money, and how to earn it. This is great with a checklist, a visual that shows them exactly what they need to do to earn the core. This button here, it would take me to the school finder tool, so I can explore different majors, different programs at the Indiana institutions. And then this option, I can explore future careers through the Indiana Career Explorer. So maybe I want to take those aptitude tests or learn a little bit more about careers. I can do that here. And then also filling out the FAFSA. I know that's a very important piece of this puzzle. I can share my plan and work with my counselor. And then those pieces for after you're actually earning the course, the need scores, the need transcripts, applying to college, all of those pieces. So where can I earn it? This is a dashboard you may remember seeing before, or a map. Ken does not like calling it a dashboard, but you can see here, this shows all of the high schools where the Indiana College Core is offered currently. So I can search on here and actually see if my school is listed and see which provider my high school is actually working with. And then the last one on here, who accepts it. So you're able to actually see the Indiana institutions, the public institutions that do accept the Indiana College Core. So diving into the course planning piece, this is the landing page, and what I'm going to do on here, it's going to tell me that I need to start by typing in my high school, and that it's really important to work with my high school counselor, and then also to be sure to come back here and mark those courses as completed as I go throughout the core. So I'm going to type in Batesville. That's where I go to high school. And it's going to show me at the top Batesville High School. If I'm switching high schools, I can select a different one. I'm not quite sure on what I want to study, but I'm thinking maybe I want to study biology, but I'm going to go through this as the undecided option. And it's going to tell me that I have to earn 30 credits to earn the core. 15 of them have to come from Ivy Tech, because that's my primary provider, the partner institution. And then I have to have at least 3 credits in each of these competency areas below. So I see here I can actually name this. So I'm going to start by taking a stab at a name, my core for the first option. And then under written communication, it tells you how many credits are required. And if you've selected enough of those credits, it's going to alert you if you have, and it's going to also show you the number that you've completed. So on here it has course name, course number, number of credits, the type of credit, institution, and then a box to check if you've completed it. So if I go through here and I click English composition, it does a little check at the top and shows me that I've fulfilled that category. So I'm just going to go through here real quickly to show what the rest of these look like. And you can see each time it's going to give me a little check mark that I've done what I needed to do on here. When I get to the AP statistics course on here, it's not letting me click anything unless I click an exam score that I think I'm going to get, because that is going to show me what course I would receive credit for. You do have to get that 3, 4, 5, depending on the course to receive that credit. So we want to be sure that that's listed in here. And then as I go throughout this, you can see at the top here, it's going to show me the number that I've selected, and then how many are actually from Ivy Tech or that partner provider. So as I go throughout this, that number goes higher, and I'm selecting that. Just a second. And then once I hit that, I've signed up for 30, it's gonna pop green, so I know that I've reached the number that I need to earn the core. So I can, at that time, I can go ahead and I can create an account to actually save this for later if I want to come back and view it, or I can share it with my counselor or my parents, and it will have a very nice printout sheet that looks like this, but it has additional resources on things that you would need to do and consider when you're pursuing the core. But one thing on here, if I would want to choose biology, you can see, I don't think you can see the list on there, but if I select biology, it's going to pop up with this degree plan next to it. And if I select that, that's going to take me to my partner provider's page and show me that full glimpse of what courses are offered there. So these are exactly what's on that list that we just looked at, but I can see it directly from Ivy Tech's page. Covered in my other window, so I'm not quite sure how to go back. Sorry, I don't normally have issues with this.
Well, you're
It's sleepy
looking at
time of the
that to private, or we coordinate with the private, so the private universities also accept core, and they be listed as well.
They are not a part of this yet, but I think we'd be more than happy to include them on here if they're interested. And we do mention that some of them may accept the core. We don't have them directly listed on here which ones do, but that is something we'd love to incorporate. Sorry, I don't know what I did on this.
So for students who are at a high school that's not yet participating, or homeschool students, because I know a recent grad who was homeschooled, but she got her college core through Ivy Tech kind of on her own. Can they use this tool, or do they have to coordinate with Ivy Tech?
This would be, are you talking about homeschool? I'm sorry.
Students who are either homeschooled or they go to a high school that isn't yet part of the program.
Well, you know, any entrepreneurial student can take courses and be able to earn a core. So it's certainly possible that a high school that is not designated as a delivery site for the core, somebody who could use this tool and figure out what classes they need to take and figure out a way to get those classes, sure, they could earn the core. Now, they'd have to work with a specific institution, because in order to earn the core, you've got to earn it from an institution, and that institution has to offer half of the coursework that is required, at least 15 hours. But yes, that would be possible.
And so just real quickly, I'll show you this piece where if I would select biology, it's going to actually choose the courses that I want to pursue instead of just anything that's offered at my school to earn the core. You'll see on here it says required courses in biology. If I hover over, it says required courses are highlighted in yellow below, and it tells me that I need to take the English 111, and then you can see the yellow highlight. And as I go throughout this,
I'm gonna do the first. Like a
areas that would be the best for me to pursue if I'm interested in biology, to really make the most of my experience in high school and have that seamlessly transfer to the institution I choose. So just quickly, there's a share button, so I can send it to up to 5 people, so I can send it to my counselor, my parents, I can save it, and then it would be in my core plans, so I can go back to that, it's date stamped, and I can edit it, do whatever I want to later. But it's a great way for me to download, print it, and really work with my counselor. And then I can also come here and mark that I've completed them all, and that will tally up in the upper right. I think that is it for my demo. If anyone has any questions while I'm still on here?
Let me just pick up, I was thinking, continue to think about your question, Chris. And we chose the TSAPs. There are 20 now, some 23, so these are in fields like chemistry, biology, nursing, business administration, mechanical engineering, technology, and so forth. We chose those because we knew exactly what courses the student needed to take to complete that associate degree that would go into the bachelor's degree. And from that, we could say, these are exactly the courses that you need to take in, as part of the Indiana College Core to lead into that pathway. We'd like to be able to generalize that and add more scenarios. Now, whether that's more TSAPs or whether we can figure out another way to be much more comprehensive to say, well, if you're interested in this field, here are the courses you need to take. We had to start with something, and we started with those that had been completely worked out, and there was no question about how those courses that you would take in the as part of the Indiana Indiana College Core would fit into that associate and baccalaureate degree pathway. But we'd like to think about ways in which we can expand that, and ultimately, to try to encompass all major pathways that students would be interested in.
Is there a way to, for the students to go through this formally with training step by step in school? And the reason I ask, my youngest, when she was at Evansville Agricultural Corporation, they had a process somewhat similar, not very sophisticated, but similar. And I couldn't get her to go through and do it, and I tried it, and I did. And because it was in my best interest for her to get as many dual credits as possible so I could pay less. How do you get students interested, engaged, involved, and ready to do this? I mean, the easier we make it, the more likely they are to do it.
And one thing just to add to that, we've talked about, I know we have the Learn More video on there, but doing maybe shorter videos that are a little bit more engaging that students want to watch. And I know Ivy Tech, I think they were joking, but they threw out doing TikTok videos with this to try and get students engaged and either with it. So.
And I think Pepper, I think it's a great question too. You all know, Dory said it a couple times today, Secretary Gator and that team, they're just some of the best partners you can imagine. And as they build out their high school graduation plans for students could be a wonderful complement to that. So.
All right, any other questions? That's very impressive. Thank you very much for the overview and Dr. Sauer for introducing it to us. So good things going on. Appreciate it. And so the parents across Indiana. Yeah, I don't think that saving money is exactly something that a freshman high school student is going to be concerned about. So
Unless you'll buy a car for them.
some incentive in there. And Dr. Sauer, I think you're now going to do an update on e-transcripts.
I am, and as soon as we can get the PowerPoint out. Very good. A little background on this progress report on the Indiana e-transcript program. There we are. So first of all, just as a reminder, prior to 2005, which is when the Indiana e-transcript program's roots go back to, prior to that, all transcripts were printed on paper, stuffed in an envelope, obviously time-consuming, prone to human error, both on the sending and the receiving side, expensive, and this is when the idea of developing an e-transcript program came about. By the way, it was started with philanthropic support. So this was the Indiana Secondary Market Invested that provided the seed money to develop this tool, which is now supported through a state appropriation. Really, there are very few states that have anything close to this. The program is now a statutory program. In 2013, the General Assembly realized this was a good idea. Let's put it in code. The Commission, by statute, administers this program, and we have a line item appropriation out of which the funding to support a contract with Parchment. That's our vendor for this program. They're a national company. There are really only two big ones, and Parchment is one of them. There is a common electronic transcript standard. I won't get into the technical details, but we use national standards. And then from those, we said, what's the subset of fields that make sense for our exchange of transcripts? So that's consistent with national technical standards. We appreciate the Commission's resolution that was passed in February of last year, which said that we need to move to exchanging all college transcripts as electronically as XML data files. Again, I don't want to get into the detail, but it's XML, which is the basis for the data files that we exchange. Initially, this was just a high school to college initiative. So it's just the high school transcripts that are being sent electronically. But the program now includes college to college. And as of last year, we were at the point where it seemed important to have the Commission to weigh in and plant the flag and say, this is where we need to be. So we're just a year or so after that resolution, and we thought it would be a good idea to do a survey of results where we stand. So I'm going to take you through the institution very quickly, and each of these slides is divided into two parts. The top part, sending, and the other part is consuming. And that latter part is important because it's one thing to send the transcripts as a data file, but we having worked with the institutions, we realized that we really needed to devote some effort to coordinate how institutions were consuming these, because there are different, and again, I don't want to get into the technical details, but there are different ways. And we thought it would be good to create a technical working group, which meets every other month or so, and where information could be shared, not only about sending, but also consuming. What's the best way to bring this data into the admissions process, into the student information systems that the institutions have. So let's start with Ivy Tech. Ivy Tech was the first institution to send all of its transcripts as XML data files. And they are ready to consume transcripts as XML data. They haven't been because nobody else has been sending transcripts as XML data files, but they're ready. But they were the first institution to do this, and they really broke the mold, and that's what I am pleased to say that there are now 2 other institutions that are about to join Ivy Tech in sending their transcripts as XML data files. One of those is Vincennes University, and we think perhaps even by the end of this month, they will begin to send all their transcripts electronically as XML data files that can be consumed by any other institution in Indiana, because we have set the standards for what an electronic transcript looks like. They are actually consuming the Ivy Tech transcripts. Ivy Tech was sending them, and we have Ivy Tech students who transfer to the VU. Indiana University is the other institution within the state that is moving very rapidly towards sending all of its transcripts as XML data files. That should happen by the end of this semester. So that's quite in consuming transcripts as XML data. So these 3 first institutions have really done great work here, both on the sending and the receiving side. Not so much good news for Purdue University. As of yet, they have no specific plans for picking a date and having a strategy by which they can send and receive XML transcripts. Costs and priorities are the reasons that they cite. I do think there is a willingness on the part of the university to do this. So it's not as though they're saying, well, we don't want any part of this. That's not true. I think they do very much see the benefits of participating in the e-transcript program, sending and consuming. It's just that they haven't gotten there. So we'll try to work with Purdue to see if we can move that along and get a sense of where they are in the process.
Ken, how long do you think it will take before that's the only way to do it, to send transcripts?
Well, it may take a while, it's a short answer. And the reason for that is, I think in the near term, we can see, and I wish I could give you a date, but it's in the not too distant future, given the progress that we have made, to see where the exchange of college transcripts among Indiana public institutions it will be the routine way of sending and consuming transcripts. Again, I hesitate to throw a date out there, but I will say, given the progress we've made, it's not too far off. And I would hope a year from now, we could present even more progress on this and have that date in mind. The problem is when you begin to think about the independent institutions, when you think about transcripts outside of the state, there are some states that are working in this area, but nowhere near to the extent that we are. And I wish that this could be a national project, because, I mean, this is the 21st century. We ought to be sending transcripts electronically, and they ought to be sent using a standard that can facilitate the consumption of those transcripts. After all, I mean, the basic academic transcript probably hasn't changed for a century. ACRO, which is the National Professional Organization of the Admissions Officers and Registrars, they have definitions for all these fields. So it's very frustrating that there hasn't been more national attention given to this.
Dr. Sauer, I think you alluded to this, but I maybe didn't consume it appropriately. So as the institutions consume the data, does that mean that they can integrate with the data files of the university to assign it to their like classes and determine what they receive?
Well, the consumption as data has two benefits. One is in the admissions process. Okay. So it's much easier if you have a course that is represented as data as opposed to PDF or paper. You can then, institutions have lookup tables, and they get students from particular institutions, and they're familiar with the courses, and they say, oh yes, we've seen this course, we can give credit for that, or we can't. So the admission side, having transcripts as data really facilitates the admission side of this, both for first-time students as well as transfer students. The other thing that it does, and here this goes for both high school students coming in as well as college students, is that if you have the transcript, if you have the courses as data, you can then incorporate those into your database and have a much better, you're able to do much more granular, much more refined research and completion, so that you have a much better idea of, well, somebody had this array of courses with these grades, how do they do in terms of persistence from year to year, in terms of completing their degree program. And so those are the two ways in which having transcripts as data files can be so beneficial. And by the way, I actually suggest this as well. I think this is something, if we had access to transcript data, we'd be able to do much more refined searches as well. And perhaps in terms of student financial aid, another way to administer that. So transcripts as data are really important. I hope.
Is that a matter of privacy for the commission to receive that, the transcript data?
I'm sorry.
Is it a matter of student privacy, or will the commission be able to get that?
I don't think that, oh, you mean the commission? Or, well, yes, there will always privacy issues, but I think because there would be educational benefits that we could derive from having the more granular transcript data. I don't think that would be a problem as long as we.
Well, with the standard format, they can use the proprietary information anyway, so. Okay.
So let's see, Indiana State, USI, no specific plans on sending. USI has made this a priority, however, and they're reaching out to Ivy Tech to get some advice. This is where we can play a kind of a convening function to bring people together. And the great thing about working in this area is that our institutions want to help each other out, and it's great sharing of best practices and, well, there's a better way to do this. Here it is. Consuming transcripts, Indiana State and Ball State actually didn't respond in time to get them in this PowerPoint, but we did get a partial response, and I'm pleased to say that Ball State now has a target date of June, according to the information we have, that they will start to consume transcripts as data. So in general, we have 3 institutions that are, well, let's say by the end of the semester, we'll have 3 institutions that are both sending and consuming transcripts as XML data files, college transcripts as XML data files, and that's terrific progress. We've made progress over the course of last year. Other institutions, I think, are at least moving in this direction. And this is why it's important to have an item like this on the agenda so that we can publicly go through and share what's been happening. And it signals it's important to have your support here because that makes a real difference as we work with the institutions to try to accelerate this process. And I hope by next year there will be an even more favorable report to give you.
Ken, one question, one comment. The question, are we encouraging or do we have any outreach to the privates to participate in this?
In this area, we've not done a lot of that, and as always, we want to try to include them. So our transfer work, our core transfer library, we have private institutions participating. We'd love to have a more formal engagement with the Indiana College Board, that they would accept those. In this area, I guess we've spent so much time working with publics that we've not had the bandwidth to kind of reach out to them and try to bring them into the process. Certainly wouldn't be opposed to it, but I guess the sense is, and maybe with this report, we're at the point of saying, you know, hey, we've in a sense, I think by the end of the semester, we will have crossed the threshold by having Ivy Tech and SENS and Indiana University all sending and receiving. Maybe this is an opportunity to have that outreach, and at least for those institutions that are happy to jump in, we could try to bring them into the fold as well.
I make them feel included, but there's also a pretty healthy stream of students that pass that for publics and privates in Indiana, at both the baccalaureate and master level, so it might be helpful. And then the question is, could you come back maybe in a September meeting with an update on this and the participation? I think that'd be helpful.
Be happy to. And we'll let the institutions know too, and that always provides an incentive for more progress.
Dr. Sauer, I always like to say it's a good day when I learn something new. And I know that every time you step up to the podium, I'm going to learn something new. So thanks to you and Jillian on illuminating us today. It's been a very great presentation. Thank you. And now we have, oh, I'm sorry, guys.
Sorry, Dr. Sauer. Request, let's just follow up on Chris Simone's point. We all talked about the college core. I thought it would be helpful, actually, what I see on your intro to the e-transfer. And that is it. The why. I guess that's still very helpful. I think that would be helpful just as a process. We could do that for these other presentations, how the college core, the why. I think that thing is to my comment. I'm concerned about 20, 30, or 20, 80 minutes 2050 at Dr. South. But on the one hand, I think the why actually means to have some of the private start to say, oh, we need to get products. But I can get it. But now, based on how you frame, I'm starting to get it. But what I also see is that sometimes people don't get it because everybody doesn't have that institutional knowledge, which you bring forth every time. So really, it won't always be with us. We can talk about those things about when they start, and some of them started, but it's just really impressive.
So much agree with your point that it's important to explain the why here, and many of us just forget. We sort of, oh, we assume it, but it really does help because from time to time, you know, circumstances change, programs change, and by reminding yourself, well, I really do need to explain this, you find that, well, oh, maybe I can explain this in a better way. And that helps. That's so important to communicate. So, yeah, I appreciate your placing value on the importance of trying to explain why we're doing something, why it's important, how it affects students.
Yes, and this last time, I was trying to compliment you, very impressive. But you're able to go back and say, this is where it was when it started, everything was on there. And you say, this is actually not just where we are, but it was the progression. I just think it educates a lot of people, especially if you weren't here on the commission 10 years ago. It's really helpful, educates a lot of people quickly. So, thank you.
All right, and we now have 3 academic degree programs for expedited action. They're on page 37 in our booklet. So do I have a motion? I think we can do it as one whole. Is that correct, Dr. Sauer? Yeah. All right, so Stan, do we have a second? Okay, Tom. And any discussion? If no, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I'm not omitting you all online, the commission members who are online, you just need to speak up so I can hear you. So, all right, the programs are approved. Thank you very much. And now we move on to our student success items. And are you going to turn it over to Charlie?
I think I pretty much am because I was unable to attend the meeting and I apologize. But Charlie is so diligent and efficient that she sent me a summary and a recording of the meeting that's available for everyone or anyone who would like to hear it. It was a wonderful full meeting with several guest speakers and it focused on higher education for students with intellectual disabilities in the state. And John Anderson from IU, Canadian Institute of Disability and Community, was with the team along with others from IUPUI, Huntington, Indiana, BJC, and ITech Fort Wayne. So I know Charlie has some details. I think maybe you, Erica, have some details, so I will.
Yeah. Charlie, how about you go first and then I'll tag on with the veteran education pathway.
I love it. Okay. So actually, Madison, go ahead and, no, I have the clicker. Never mind, I know how to do this. Ha! Look, so I made a whole slide about sort of the first meeting. So it was perfect, Pepper, that you gave a good overview because now, you don't have to read the slide. But essentially, this is the meeting we had in February is one of a bigger picture of what we're doing this year, which is what we're calling our student success series. So focusing on a variety of different student populations and groups to really highlight some of the challenges, barriers, some of the data, find out what our institutions are currently doing, and try to highlight some gap areas if we can. So our goal is to create sort of a level of baseline data. You know, what are student parents dealing with? What are students with intellectual disabilities dealing with? What are first generation students, foster students, veteran students, adult students, so on and so forth. So we are essentially also wanting to create space for the institutions to share some of the really great best practices that they are doing for the sort of variety of student populations on their campuses as well. So again, collecting baseline data, trying to highlight our institutions that are doing great work. And we did have, we kicked off the presentation on February 14th, kicked off the series, I should say, with John Anderson from the Indiana Institute on Disability and Community at IU. So a couple of us were in the room, and he gave just a fantastic presentation, but man, he brought a powerhouse of other institutions with him, including some private of our institutions, to talk about what they're currently doing, how they partner in the K-12 space to make sure that there is not only a pipeline pathway for students with intellectual disabilities from K-12 to college, but also from college to beyond, to make sure that they're really having meaningful and good work experience opportunities. So I don't know, Chris, if you or anybody else at the meeting wanted to say anything, but I just thought it was one of the more fascinating ones we've ever had, just to hear from people really on the ground. So.
I probably want to say it was just, it was pretty incredible. And I was also blown away by the number of folks and stories that just how lives have been impacted.
Do we ever think of recording those meetings?
Yeah, I did record this one for the committee, since I know both Pepper and Erica weren't able to be there, so I can share that with you.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I shared it with the whole commission, but I'll make sure to get that done. Yeah. So next topics, we're going to talk about first generation students at our April meeting, and then foster students. We have Maggie Smith from Foster Success. I've already reached out to her, and I asked her to come in April, but they have a board meeting that day, so they're going to come in June. So actually, I'm going to take a moment to highlight a new face. Kara Short over there, several of you met her last night. She is our new communication specialist. She is reporting to Allison, and they've been a dynamic duo so far. And so Kara actually comes to us from Butler University. She was in enrollment and admissions. She's also working on getting her master's right now in communication. So wonderful blend of higher ed and communications. We could not have found a better person for our team and a better, just wonderful personality to hang out with, as I have discovered over the last 24 hours or so. She's a lot of fun.
So don't leave.
Okay. If they have their way, they will just lock me in a closet, I'm pretty sure. So with that, I'm going to actually turn it over to Allison Kier, our communications director right now, to go through the next couple slides, and we'll switch off and on. There you go.
Thank you, Charlie and Erica. I think that we should have a motion about keeping Charlie here. Can we do that? We should.
It's better if you don't want me to leave than you want me to leave.
That's true. That's true. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the marketing efforts that we're doing here. So one of the big things that we've been working on is the Learn More Indiana website refresh. So if you all don't know, if you may be unfamiliar, Learn More Indiana is the student, parent, educator facing arm of the commission. So it provides people with information about different pathways to higher education, financial aid options, support for 21st century scholars. And honestly, it's a less government-y feeling website than the commission website. As you all know from the Ed Value research, the government is seen as a not so trusted messenger. So this is friendly, accessible, Indiana.org. So a couple of things that we've done during phase one is improving search engine optimization of the website. We also narrowed the audience. So before we had resources for everyone, and it was very overwhelming. So we really are focusing on those three groups: students, parents, and educators. And then we improved site navigation. If you have been to our former site, you had to go through like 3 levels to get to some things, and it was hard. It was a challenge. So it's much easier to navigate. Updated colors, look, feel very positive, welcoming, warm. So that's the website. That was phase 1 that we've updated. Another thing marketing wise is that we are preparing to send out shipments. So each year, Learn More, we send out shipments to K-12 educators and counselors. The shipments are going to have a couple of things that we're mandated to send, so FAFSA notices and the scholar grade guides. We're also sending some fun things like school bulletin boards. Educators love those, so they're able to.
Kids, not
The boards,
Yeah,
yeah, that would be
kids,
too much.
not the
The
boards.
kids,
Yeah.
you can't pay for the boards. But they'll have kits that they can put onto their bulletin boards that will have information about college, financial aid, all of that, for specific grade bands. And then the final thing is that we are preparing to send out postcards to 21st Century Scholar seniors. So that's kind of a last reminder to those groups that, hey, you have some Scholar Success Program activities that you need to complete. We want to give you a reminder, we want you to get that scholarship. So that's getting ready to go out. The next aspect of marketing is our Jerome Bettis campaign. So if y'all weren't here when we presented this, this is our big marketing campaign that we did with our education value research. The title of the campaign, Step Into Your Future. And Jerome the Bus Bettis was the face of the campaign. He went back to Notre Dame. He was a couple credits short from finishing his degree. He earned his degree. We were able to get an interview with him. He shared the reasons why, and it was really resonating for not just K-12 learners, but really, really resonating for adult learners of why he went back to finish what he started. And so here's some metrics that we had from that campaign. It's going to be wrapping up at the end of March, but we had 14.5 million impressions. And this is everything from CTV, YouTube, display ads, and Facebook ads. So it was a holistic campaign. We had about nearly 30,000 clicks. We had a 0.21% click-through ratio, about 22,000 website sessions, and in total the spend was 160,000. So again, as I said, that's our first campaign that we did with this research, wrapping up at the end of March. And then we're going to be moving on to a next campaign that we are promoting Indiana scholarships to high school juniors and seniors, as well as their parents. And that's going to kick off in late March, and it's funded through Gear Up. So we're going to keep that momentum going and keep it building, reaching a little bit of a different audience than what we did with the Bettis campaign, but still getting the word out. Anything you wanted to add? Yeah.
Yes, I think you started to touch on it, but could you say more about what you learned from the Bettis campaign that you would incorporate or change or modify? Or keep consistent?
Yeah, I'm trying to, I think, what I learned from it is having a really clear call to action. With the Bettis campaign, it was very more selling the value of higher education. Having to instead really drive people, it was not as specific as some of the other campaigns like the Workforce Ready Grant, where we're driving them to the Workforce Ready Grant. This is more of like understanding the value of higher education. So I guess maybe a little bit more specific, narrowing it down, but that's what we're working on with the next campaign, focusing on financial aid. So we opened broad and now we're kind of narrowing things down.
So I would say with this campaign, what we aim to do was to drive specifically all of our ad traffic to a specific page on the Learn More site that is branded with the Jerome Bettis imagery, with the information, the language we learned from the education value work. And then the goal was to sort of, as much as we could, take the kind of outreach experience of where you're having a one-on-one conversation with a person and you're asking them, what do you need? And then let us help connect you to the resources that the state has for that, and turn it into, as much as we could, a form and a digital form so that we can then pair those people who responded on the form, so that's the 22,000 with the right resources, whether it's in the adult space, to the Workforce Ready Grant, whether they need even a high school diploma to send them to adult basic education, or whether they're looking for 2 or 4 year scholarship degree options. So I think, but what Allison said is absolutely correct. The next campaign is going to be hyper targeted to juniors and seniors and their parents as well, to make sure that we are making the accessibility part of higher education much more understandable, within reach, make it feel comfortable for people who have maybe not always felt that, as specifically as they're looking toward what their students or what they themselves are going to do after high school.
And if you go in with some kind of aspirational ratio of impressions and clicks,
Yeah, so this click-through rate is actually about 3 times the industry standard for these types of ads. So this one's actually, it was a low spend. We only had $160,000. So I think our next goal is to at least double that amount of money. We're very thankful to our partnership with the GEAR Up, our partners at Purdue and the federal government for funding that. So I would think we would see at least a doubling, if not more, of the sort of click-through rate. Especially going back to the workforce ready grant, we've always seen really good returns through the clicks. It takes them a couple of times, but that's where the retargeting of the advertisements and the lead generation is so important, so that we can make sure we're in front of them a couple of times, because it takes a couple of times for people to feel that they're ready to do it. Sure.
So do we have a hook like a Jerome Bettis for the next campaign, like puppies or?
So our
Puppies.
okay.
I'm with you on puppies.
She likes puppies. Ironically, did you know that Allison's dog's named Charlie? That's not confusing.
And my husband's name is Chris. So also,
We never know who we're talking about.
not Chris.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think we need to tie the starfish campaign with be a goldfish from Ted Lasso.
That's a good one. So that's great. I love
what
that.
about NIL? I mean, current athletes, is there a way to tap into that with some of the young, high-profile athletes right now in Indiana that are closer to age and something?
Yeah. So that's really, I think that's our goal going forward, is how can we continue this look at using the influencer model, using people who are, again, a good representation for people at all different ages and stages to see, aspirationally what that could look like. So we'd had, when we started the Jerome Bettis campaign, we'd also had some conversations with the Pulse, and they were pretty excited to potentially partner with us. So it just takes time to develop those relationships. So Nancy, to answer your question, we are working with Hirons on this campaign going forward. They are working right now on some of the creative. So we haven't nailed it down yet, but it's coming. So you'll share when it's done.
Well, so moving on, so some exciting things about the education value research. Charlie and I have just been on the road. We've been hitting the pavement, sharing the good news about the education value research that we did, and it was 2021, correct? Yeah, so 2021. And here's just a brief list of some people that we've been connecting to. So it's not just statewide individuals that we've been connecting with, really building those relationships with employers, high school educators, community partners, college campuses as well that we've been presenting this data to, but we've also had some national outreach as well. Charlie and I we're podcasters now, I guess. We're on the Complete College America podcast talking about this research that we did. Jose Medina and I are going to be traveling to Tennessee to connect with their Tennessee Reconnect team. It's their adult learner outreach team. So we'll be sharing our education value research, but we'll also be hearing from them, their people who are working with adult learners. What are they hearing from those individuals? They have a whole team that just works with justice-involved individuals in Tennessee. So, how can we, as Stacy's working diligently to build up this adult outreach strategy, how can we incorporate some of the things that Tennessee has seen from their work? So we've really been, sharing the work that we've been doing here in Indiana to multiple different people. And I think it's helped, I think we've hit pretty much all 5 sectors of the partnership pentagon of engaging people in this research. It really is a grassroots effort to get people to, understand what Hoosiers are saying, their hearts and minds of the value of higher education, but also to take the messaging framework that we developed from that research to implement that into their work. So some next steps that we're looking at is, again, continuing that grassroots effort that I mentioned, but also doing some train the trainer. So when we present to different organizations, particularly high school counselors, employers, community partners, how can they take that presentation that we have to, share and train people within their organization to, train that to other people in their network. So just building that relationship, spreading it, that data out as far as we can. And then we're also going to look at the data that we have gathered, that we've paid for through the research, and disaggregate it more. Our vendor did a really great job, but we can really dig in there and see rural versus urban, race and ethnicity disaggregation to see how those populations are responding to. And then we also want to survey again. So we did the survey initially in 2021, and we want to see if we were able to move the needle in our work. So that's coming up. I'm going to turn it back over to Charlie.
So real quick on this, I want to say it was interesting. Allison and I on the same day, we went completely different directions. Allison went to Muncie Central, and I went to Plainfield to their Chamber of Commerce meeting. So she talked to, I think, was it all of the faculty and all the teachers during their professional development opportunity at Muncie Central. And I talked to, 100 or so employers at Plainfield. And the funny thing was, we were getting the exact same questions from both of those very different groups. So I think the partnership kind of gone is right on the money. And the more that we can help connect these two groups and all of the rest of it as well, the more we'll get out of all of this work.
And I'll add, it seems like every time Charlie and I present, it's like a little focus group. The counselors that I connected with, they did not hold back on what they're hearing from parents that they're working with, what they're hearing from students that they're working with. And all of these things, I think, have really helped to shape our work, that we can come back, share with Chris, share with the exec team, and implement that into what we're doing.
One more update from me, and then we're going to pinch hit for our colleague Michelle Ashcraft, who is at home not feeling well. So we're going to muddle our way through her slides, but I think we'll be all right. So crossing the finish line, this is the third year that we have done this program, which is astounding to me, that we started this off as an opportunity in the pandemic as a recovery effort for students to make sure that they are completing, initially the Indiana College Core and other high-value degrees, associate degrees, certificates, technical certificates. And so a lot of those students were disrupted in their learning in the midst of the pandemic, so didn't have the opportunity to finish a lot of those dual credit opportunities. So the goal was for us to use some of the funding we got from the federal government to, essentially allow Ivy Tech and Vincennes to pay for the classes and the textbooks and fees for students to finish these degrees after or right before they graduated from high school. So there is a one-pager with some great data in your agenda books. If you have a chance to look at that, I would encourage that, because it shows the results that we have from the first 2 years of the program. So we are kicking off year 3. We are also, there is about $5 million, so $2.5 million for each year of biennium anticipated through the state budget to continue sustaining the program going forward, which is really exciting. So what did you say, Chris, last night? 7 weeks and 2 days, so 7 weeks and 1 day? Yeah. Okay. So if you're in front of any of our legislators and want to give a push for this one as well, that would be highly appreciated. We are kicking off sort of our goal setting, campus level and population specific goals, because we have to make this a more equitable opportunity as well. So that's going to be happening in our next sort of planning meeting. The My College Core tool that Dr. Sauer talked about, of course, will support this effort, the Indiana College Core, and then hopefully we are going to be able to utilize the tool then to maximize completions in this program as well. And then hopefully with the GPS dashboard, the Indiana College Core is one of the 5 credentials, as Dr. Jenner talked about at our last meeting, that is included in the dashboard with a pretty hefty goal of 60% of high school students graduating with a credential by 2030, and it's currently, I can't see, but 5-something%. So long way to go. And I see Chris has the mic, so I'll turn it over to him.
Yeah, since Dr. Jenner's not here to say this, the 60% goal ought to be very familiar with everyone. that's the goal that they set, all of you set, and many of you set years ago, in line with what the foundation had recommended. So think about it, students right out of the gates, crossing that high school stage with their high school diploma and having a provincial value. The other thing I would say is, it's an audacious goal. It's a high expectation. And the reality is that there are high schools right now in Indiana that are approaching 50% on that. It can be done. So we're excited.
Charlie, just a quick question. Do we work with any outside agencies or anything like that, the commission on all this marketing, outreach, advertising, et cetera,
Yeah, so from a state agency standpoint, for Crossing the Finish Line specifically, we work really closely with the Department of Education. It was their funding. They helped us and we partnered together to make this operational. The Governor's Workforce Cabinet with the Office of CTE heavily involved in this work as well. And then Ivy Tech and Vincent from the institution standpoint. Now, when we first started this, Education Strategy Group, or ESG, was a consulting firm, and they really helped kind of like pull it all together and help us kind of get our ducks in order, because the DOE team was brand new, I was brand new to the role, and they were just really good at sort of herding us all in one direction. But we have not done any paid advertising or marketing yet for the Indiana College Board. That is on our list of things for this year. That's one that will be handed over to my predecessor. That there is plenty of opportunity for us to put some dollars behind this. And there's, plenty of ad agencies in the state that will help us get there. Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, Michelle, our Assistant Commissioner for K-12 Strategy, could not be here today, but she's really excited because she is working to hire some new folks on her team, including a Director of K-12 Outreach, and this person will oversee the outreach coordinators that are around the state. Of course, we have 8 of them in different communities. I think we had one here today. Oh, Amy Paraga, who covers our region here in Kokomo, is here, and so thanks Amy for being here. And then also a Director of K-12 Program Implementation to really help put a lot of all of Michelle's really big goals into action. And then she's also working on hiring a governor's summer intern. We may even get a second one. That's what our goal is, to maybe have one for communications as well. And then there are several upcoming outreach team meetings. They're going to be at CEL, at Ivy Tech with the K-14 directors, and the IU program coordinators for the College Board. So they're just everywhere these days. So if you see them, say hi. And then finally, upcoming project timelines. So we've got a busy spring and summer coming up. So April through September, you're going to see several things, including 21st Century Scholars auto enrollment. As that progresses through the legislature, but you've heard us be very positive about how that's going. So we are going to be proactively sending out letters delivered after Labor Day for the class of 2027, so that they and their families have all the information they need about that. For our Indiana pre-admissions initiative, which I think you've heard us talk about, not in detail yet, that's coming in another meeting, but essentially we've named it, we've put a brand to it. So Indiana Pre-Admissions, Your Path to College is the brand, and letters are going to be delivered for those students and their parents after Labor Day for the class of 2024. So we're really hitting it really hard to make sure that we're in people's mailboxes and inboxes and anywhere they can see to know that this information is coming. Of course, we talked about the Learn More shipments, and then college application and College Go Week are the last week of September. So we'd love for you all to engage with us on any of those opportunities. FAFSA simplification, college applications later in the year, and then of course, doing some updates to ScholarTrack, continuing to move with the Scholar Success Program, revamping the College Scholar Success Program, as Josh talked about earlier, and so on and so forth. So, that was a lot. What questions do you guys have?
Great.
If I could just quick comment, term student, we need to go back in the last slide too. Charlie covered some of the positions for which Michelle is hiring right now, Treasurer K-12 Outreach, Program Implementation, so forth. I think I shared a few commission members, maybe I'll brag on, especially the senior team. We've all put hands in sentence that we are the recruiting team for this agency. And while my understanding is the current number of applicants for an open state position is about 8 people, we are finding 60, 80, 120 people applying for these positions. And we have extraordinary candidates who, for some reason, are willing to come on board and do this, all this kind of work and not get enough sleep and so forth. But that's the brag on that team, because they're getting it out there and saying, join this team. We have a lot, you can tell them that.
I think that's the last slide. Yes, so I'm not gonna cry, so I'm just gonna say thank you.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. I'd like to give a brief update of the Veterans Education Pathways Task Force. And it's called a task force because in the military, it has a beginning and it has an end, and it doesn't last for very long. It like kick starts, and then it is sustained and maintained by another organization. So basically, the task force will give recommendations at the end of July to the Student Success Committee and the Commission that will be actionable, and we'll step back, and we'll probably have 2 more task forces after that. But this is our foray, it's our beta test, and then we'll be able to, we'll have a hot wash at the end, which is military speak, where it puts everything down and we talk about what was good, what was,
I can help you with that.
oh, yeah, yes, oh, thank you. You know, what we did right, what we did wrong, and what can be improved. So we'll make sure that as these task forces are used, they get better and more efficient as we go. But we have 3 work groups within the task force: credit for prior learning, communication and navigation, and student supports. So the first one, credit for prior learning, we're looking for uniformity of information, ease of transfer, and a transparent system, especially with the joint service transcripts and credit for prior learning. We learned that a lot of students are making their decision, veterans, on where to continue their education, post-secondary, based on which school is going to give them the most credit for prior learning. And that's not the right way to make a school determination. I mean, there's got to be, I'll put it this way, for them it might be the right way now, but there's got to be a better, more rigorous and codified system for the CPL, because it just can't be random. I mean, right now it is random, and it needs to be more codified. So we're working on that. The lead on this group is Jason Jarrett, who is the Assistant Director of Veterans Affairs at Ball State. And this working group, so there's about 10 in each of them, they're working with contacts in Texas, Kansas, Ohio, and Purdue to identify statewide practices, see what works, what doesn't work, and what the limit facts are, meaning the limiting factors. And then there's another suggestion from the group that goes right along with what we've talked about today. We need to include data regarding the availability of federal funding for veterans and military affiliated individuals to encourage them to expand CPL. There are literally millions of dollars out there available to institutions that will recruit, bring in veterans and their families. And we need to get that word out. Indiana is very military friendly, and we need to get that word out. And we need to make it easier for those veterans to transfer all of the CPL. Communication and navigation, Art Lee is the Indiana Army Reserve Ambassador to the state of Indiana, and he's leading this work group. The group right now is seeing what resources and opportunities are available at the state and county levels to figure out how to show that Indiana is actually military friendly. And INVEST, which is a nonprofit public and private partnership with the state of Indiana, is headed up by Blaine Zimmerman, and he attends this communication and navigation work group. And his organization, Index, has already put together a one-stop shop website by county that will make it easier for military folks to find educational resources and opportunities. So that maybe that needs to be made more robust. Some of us, well, I mean, I knew about it, but a lot of the people on the task force hadn't heard of Index even in the work that they're doing. So we need to get that word out there as well. And then under student supports, Lori Sprague, who is the Director of Veteran and Military Benefits at Ivy Tech, is leading this group. And they had a unique idea about, they reached out to the Purdue Military Family Research Institute, MFRI, and they're going to develop a survey that will be sent out to all of the educational institutions in the state of Indiana to see what they're already doing, kind of get a baseline. And all three of the work groups will be able to insert specific questions that they want in this survey so that we can see, okay, this is where we're starting and where we want to end, and maybe do some backcasting so that we get there. So I think that's a real unusual way to look at it. We never thought about actually starting out with a survey. We have a few months left. I told them July 24th, it's over. So we need to get on it right now. Our next meeting is on 13 March at Stout Field, and we will have a virtual option as well. We are also meeting on April 4th, which is the State of Higher Education Address. So we're meeting at 2 o'clock, and I've invited the whole task force, if they can, because they're all over the state, to please come to that gathering that we're going to have. And I know that Commissioner Lowry is going to say a few good words about the task force. I'm meeting that same day with State Senator Chris Barton, and he's the one who is, he's a Marine, first of all. So as long as he doesn't make me drop for push-ups, I think we get along really well. But with a Marine, you can never count that out. But he's the one who is helping to sponsor House Bill 1511, the Reservist Tuition Supplement Program. So I get 15 minutes with him, and I'm going to strategize with Stacy on how best to use that short 15 minutes, but I'm really excited I'll have the opportunity to meet with him. So that concludes, we've only had our kickoff meeting and one meeting after that, and we're moving along quickly, and I'm really happy for that.
Eric,
Yes, sir.
Could you repeat the State of the Education Address and time?
April 4th at 4 p.m.
April what?
Four. But it's at a hotel.
That's Weldon. That's on April 3rd, the day before.
The day before.
Yeah, so that Weldon is on the Weldon conference is Monday, April 3rd, all day at the Indianapolis Marriott North. And then State of Higher Ed Address at the State House in the South Atrium where it normally is at 4 p.m. So is that 4 at 4 p.m.
Can we get a notice out to?
Oh, yeah.
That would be
Yeah,
great. Thank you.
And somebody needs to host me in their home for 2 days, because I might as well just stay
Come and get in
here.
with me.
So, all right.
I still live here.
All right. And now we have information items about academic programs awaiting action, actions that have been taken by staff, and the media coverage. So there's no action that needs to be done with this, correct? Just want to make sure you look through it. Is there any old business, new business, or other comments from commission members? I would like to say thank you to the reading heads. Having those available ahead of time really helped me. I have to read things more than once now to have it sink in. So thank you for doing that, making sure that happened. Let's keep that going, because I think it's helpful to not just old folks like me, but for everybody. So I want to say thank you for that. And I just want to say thank you, Charlie, for everything that you've done. I have only known you less than a year, And, I mean, we just clicked, you do such fabulous work, and I might take you up on, I'll bring my own wine, okay? But, thanks to all of you for being here, the hard work that you do, the great questions. It's because in college, people used to tell me that, oh, we always thought you were very, stuck up or something. But you know what it is, when I'm on my way to a class or a meeting or something, I've got blinders on. And I don't see anything over here, I'm just focused right there. So if I don't see, that is twice I have to tap to see you, just shout out. Shake a face in front of my face. Shake a fist. I just don't see you on. It's my OCD, probably. But
Can we do one thing?
sure, yes, ma'am.
Charlie, this is.
Charlie was, I told her, I said, you can be anything. And I was really happy that she got this new job. I said, you can be anything in life. But if you can be a unicorn, be a unicorn. So you always will be a unicorn.
It's sparkling.
Yeah, it was sparkling.
All right, everyone, if there's no objection, I will conclude the meeting. Safe travels back, and you won't see me in May, but you'll see somebody. All right, thank you. We're all dismissed.
That's good.
I honestly put myself in the middle of them for that exact reason.
But I did see a book, even that.
Oh, I feel like, I feel like she's not. Yeah. Well, I meant to say he set me up for it, and it's his fault.